Lithium is a mineral that's critical for healthy brain function, nerve regeneration, and overall well-being. A lot of people have a lot of mental instability because of low lithium levels. Alzheimer's is a big-time moneymaker for the drug companies, and there's no money in lithium. Lithium is a natural intervention. If you have really messed up thought patterns because your lithium levels are very low, it's going to directly affect how the gut works.
Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Hey, this is just a quick note before the show. I interviewed Dr. Ulrey as a pre-record, and he had some technical difficulties at the beginning of the show. He ultimately moved to another location where the sound and where the connection was much better. So the beginning of this episode, we thought we'd be able to recover, but it was a little jerky. So you'll see the first couple minutes, maybe, not completely smooth tech-wise, because we had to cut out his part. It was just completely unusable, but it picks up in after the first couple minutes. So I hope you will enjoy it. I hope you'll persevere past the first 5 minutes. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to For the Love of Freedom. I am putting out this interview on Wednesday, March 25th at 10 a.m. Central, but we're recording it on Monday, March 23rd. And this will be coming live to you on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. We'd love for you to like it. We'd love for you to share it. Leave us some comments in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any questions, put them in there and we'll respond. We do our best to try and respond to all of the questions that come through. And you can always catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms, usually on the same day. Well, I'm your host, Danielle Walker, and on this show, we meet people who have rejected the status quo, people who have broken with convention, who have broken with the belief that the TV or the textbooks tell them the truth, and each of my guests, in their own way, are working to bring freedom to the world. Joining me today is a returning guest and an absolute dear soul, Dr. Rich Ulrey. Dr. Ulrey is a chiropractor and a health food store owner based in Hillman, Michigan. He's an author, a mineral researcher, and an advocate for holistic health. Dr. Ulrey is renowned for his pioneering work, linking trace minerals to the human genetic code and arguing that mineral deficiencies lead to degenerative diseases while proper balance supports health. If you have not watched our two previous interviews, I highly, highly recommend that you do. There are so many incredible keys there for changing your health in those conversations. And I'll confess, I have a hard time keeping up with Dr. Ulrey. So I may be stopping him more than I stop other guests, just so I can get clarification to any points I'm not understanding. But today we will be focusing on one mineral in particular and how the deficiency of that mineral across the population may be contributing to societal breakdown. We also have a couple questions from viewers that came in after our last interview, but I'm going to save those for the end. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Ulrey. It's great to have you with us. Before we get into the conversation on lithium, let me just read a scripture of the day that I think will tie in very well to this and help set us up for the day. Today's scripture is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. And it says, "But the evil men and sorcerers will progress from bad to worse, deceived and deceiving as they lead people further from the truth. Yet you must continue to advance in strength with the truth wrapped around your heart, being assured by God that He's the one who has truly taught you all these things. All right. So we have Doc with us. Doc, you were about to tell us we were going to start in on your presentation here on lithium.
Well, lithium is a mineral that's critical for healthy brain function, nerve regeneration, and overall well-being. On the screen it says, did you hear what happened to lithium? They got arrested for battery charges. Some say he's bipolar. There's not a person that put the wrong end of a gun to their head and went through with it that have lithium in their brain. This is just such an altered sense of reality. When your lithium levels get lower, critically lower, you may not even have any. It's critical. Let's move forward with the next slide. This is an educational purpose only. Always consult a highly qualified healthcare practitioner before you change anything. Thank you.
All right.
Psalms 147:3, He healed the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. You know, a lot of people have a lot of mental instability because of low lithium levels. And when they go to doctors, they may do a blood test on lithium. They might not. As a rule, they don't check for lithium because that's kind of like, say, for people that have gone postal. You know, the term postal was, coined a long time ago. Instead, they choose fluoride-based psychotropic drugs, which actually then deplete the body lithium stores even lower, making you more and more dependent on fluoride-based medicines at the destruction of your brain.
And Doc, if I could just stop you right there. I was reading through the presentation you sent before you came on, and I was stunned to see that those drugs that are used or prescribed for people struggling with mental illness are fluoride based. Would you talk about that a little bit more?
It's in our slideshow. We'll catch up to that. Go ahead and hit it. So when we're talking about people, the holistic practitioner looks at the physical state, the emotional state, the intellectual state. Where's your spirit at? How are you socially interacting? I mean, this is what's missing in mainstream medicine. It's like you have a symptom, I have a pill. Their pills do nothing to get to the root problem. It just helps people cope with the symptoms. Okay. Yeah. Going postal, you can hit the next one when you feel like it. This was a slang term back in the 80s and 90s. People get suddenly upset, outburst. They snap under pressure. It's impulsive, and it causes a lot of problems in people's lives. Go ahead. Okay, so this book here is an 800-page book of everything found in the fluids that protect the brain, the brainstem, and the spinal cord. It's a handbook of everything in it. Okay, so the next slide will show you all the minerals we found in the brain. And so there's a lot of them, and there's not very much of stuff in there, but, stuff like tantalum and mercury and tungsten and cadmium. There's so many bad minerals in there. Go to the next slide, please. And then we'll see that lithium is the 10th most abundant mineral found in the human brain these days. Sadly, aluminum shouldn't be on this chart. Actually, they're finding more aluminum and bromide in people than they find lithium these days.
Wow.
Okay.
Should I go next
forward?
Slide? Okay.
Yeah, the next slide is the book Minerals for Acupuncture Meridian. Now, this is my favorite book I put together. This encompasses all the minerals, including all the subatomic particles, as it is implied to the flow of magnetic energy in the body. So on the next slide, you'll see that I've linked lithium to the spleen meridian, which is regenerating at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it has to do with histamine, the amino acid histamine. Okay, you can go to the next. That slide right there. It's interesting that all these minerals we talk about, they have light absorption and light emission spectra. Okay, so we can go to the next slide, please.
And Doc, you mentioned histamines. I was telling you before that I'm struggling with allergies this morning. Does having an appropriate level of lithium regulate allergic responses?
Absolutely. Remember, whenever it gets up that snout of yours that's making you irritated, it has direct access to the brain as well. So when your nose is all inflamed, it's letting you know that your brain has a little inflammation. Because I remember you said you're not as snappy as you normally are when you first wake up because you have brain inflammation as well. Yeah. So what do people take? They take antihistamines, and of course that would affect lithium levels and mood levels. Okay, I hit the next slide. So On the right, we can see what healthy soils will give to us and what unhealthy soils. If you have bad soils, how could you have good food? And our food chain is, our soils are so decimated that they have to genetically modify the foods to not need minerals, which is like ridiculous. And then when they genetically modify the plant, you get a lot of lateral gene transfer, and this genetic modification moves throughout the food web associated wherever this stuff is planted on your behalf. Okay, next slide, please. So going back to the soil, because this is where all of our health comes from, Roundup is simply an antibiotic. Yeah, it can grab metals because it was used as a metal chelator, but in my eyes, if you kill the bacteria in the soil so plants cannot absorb minerals, you're getting an empty harvest. It looks and smells like corn, but it doesn't have any minerals. And whenever they start genetically modifying things, the problem with genetic modification is genetic modification. God didn't put this stuff on earth for you to mess around with, and they like to take a hold of that. Now, the bacteria, the lactobacillus, as everybody would call yogurt, Lactobacillus acidophilus, that's a group of bacteria that just gets wiped out of the soil and in the human beings. And it's the lactobacillus that allows you to generate the vitamins needed to absorb lithium. Next slide, please. Okay, so vitamin B13, also known as ortic acid. Roundup has a big impact on this ability for your body to generate and utilize this. Now, when they were classifying B vitamins, they said, well, the body makes so much ortic acid, we don't even have to worry about it. Well, now we do have to worry about it, and we're seeing it clinically because ortic acid has one job, maybe many, but the big job I see is ortic acid needs to bind to lithium, making lithium orotate. Okay, next slide, please. So when you combine orotate and lithium combined, you do get lithium orotate, and this is the only way that I'm aware of that you can get lithium out of your food chain. Next slide. So it is the missing mineral in many contexts. I did not include any hair test in this presentation, but I'm going to talk about it. Many years ago, lithium was not even an issue. Now it's, when I look hair test over, it's almost everybody is low on lithium. I mean, low. It's
Wow.
like, how are you thinking? So my question is, tell me, do you view the day with the glass full of water as half full or half empty? And when people hesitate or say the word well, just to talk about lithium has that stigma of being postal. So people get embarrassed about it. They don't like to admit that maybe they're, feeling the blues or some clinical depression, but it's a daily event. Okay, next slide, please.
Sorry. Here we go.
Okay, so lithium orotate that I utilize in my health food store and have people take would be from Global Healing. They have some of the cleanest products on the earth. Okay, next slide, please.
And you have me on this as well, Doc. Whenever you did my hair sample analysis, you put me on
You
this.
were one that, just typical stuff. So that's the chemical structure of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Now, you'll see that nitrogen is involved in this. All B vitamins are just various forms of nitrogen. And when your crops are dusted with this Roundup and it alters nitrogen metabolism in your gut, your body can't make the necessary B vitamins. So many people are running around not just orotate deficient, they're vitamin B12 deficient, B9 deficient. And it's scary because a paper came out that I took to heart. It said schizophrenic, bipolar, and depression all have one thing in common. They have genetic mess ups and they cannot metabolize vitamin B9, folic acid, vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin, or vitamin D3. And it's sad that people don't even get their vitamin B9s tested. And some people get B12 and D3 tested, but these are notoriously low on chronic brain inflammation people. I don't like to say the word you're bipolar or you're this, because to me, it's just a variation of chronic brain inflammation.
Wow.
Next slide. So people get, stuck. They're just what happens. Here we are this time of the year. In northern Michigan, we haven't seen the sun, going on 4 months or 5 months.
Yeah.
And we get a really nice day and we like it. And then we're right back to snow and snowstorms again. So this is the time of the year when people are drastically low in vitamin D. And if you compound a lithium deficiency, then you'll find that people's attitudes are just way off base and they're not doing very well mentally. Next slide, please.
And Doc, just real quick on the folks who are not metabolizing B9, what is the remedy for that? Is it just to supplement with those things directly?
Well, there's two reasons. One, your diet may not be sufficient in dark green leafy vegetables, or B, you have something called a single nucleotide polymorphism, which means just an abnormal variation. You've heard of poor methylators. People that have vitamin B12 problems have to have methylated B12. These people need a methylated folic acid as well. And if you have the single polynucleotide morphism of vitamin D, that means you got to take a lot more vitamin D in the next person to have it be effective. That's a good question. Thank you. Lithium, is this like the missing link to Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's is a big time moneymaker for the drug companies, and there's no money in lithium. Okay, next slide. Lithium, and it's a natural approach. People talk about maybe we should be putting lithium in the water. Well, they stick fluoride in the water, and if you say you can't do that, you're not a doctor, then the same thing goes with lithium. You shouldn't be putting minerals into water just because you think you're going to prevent somebody else from being sick. We just need better education, a better understanding of what minerals do. Lithium is a natural intervention. It protects you. Okay, the next slide, please. This where you're targeting health principles, changing oxidative stress, trying to get rid of inflammation, getting your energy supplies brought up by changing the mitochondria. Next slide, please. Oh, this is just a picture of, the pharmakeia of stuff that you could do, but the person doesn't know what to do. There's just so much information out there. You don't know what to believe, what to take. And sadly, when you turn to the conventional doctors that are out there, they don't know the first thing about a diet. So how could they tell you what foods to eat that has lithium? It's sad. Okay, next slide, please. Lithium's neuroprotection. It helps maintain your brain structure. It helps modulate your neurotransmitters, and it changes the function inside cells. Next slide, please. Lithium enhances mitochondrial functioning, and it's like the benefits of methylene blue. Now, methylene blue is a man-made substance that was made in 1857 that's been used for well over 100 years, plus almost 150. Methylene blue takes something out of the brain called deuterium dioxide. That's known as heavy water. And some of these geoengineering storms, I actually think people are getting a little bit of this deuterium in their system. And you can also take CoQ10. People don't understand what CoQ10 is. So I'll look at a guy and he says, well, you change the oil in your car? And they go, yeah, I do. I says, would you stick 90 weight in your car? Well, no, that's a real thick oil, 90 weight. Well, when you go back to the human body, you can say, well, do you know what fatty omega-3 is? Well, sure I do. That's the oil we get from all grass-fed animals. But if I said fatty omega-10, you'd shake your head. Well, fatty omega-10 is CoQ10. It's just very specific for the heart and the brain. Okay, next slide, Danielle.
So what does it do? It also would remove deuterium dioxide and promote mitochondrial function?
Yes, deuterium the body doesn't really have the ability to tell the difference between H2O and D2O. And there's studies out there that if people that are desperately sick take completely deuterium-free water at stage 4 cancers, they actually can gain up to 6 months of life by just not having the deuterium go into the body. If we suspect deuterium toxicity, we use the methylene blue, and then we need to get that pushed out of the kidneys in a timely manner. So we use chaga. Chaga is that fungus that grows on a birch tree.
Yeah.
And I think its greatest attribute to human health is the removal of deuterium dioxide.
Wow. And would you say, is this something that ultimately impacts metabolic function as well?
Well, yeah, if you don't have good working mitochondria, you don't have any energy. Let's say that let's say you get a whiplash injury and your neck gets hyperextended and hyperflexed, and it cuts off the blood supply to the cartilage, which has got a weak blood supply at best, because everything gets there is passive diffusion. If the blood supply quits, the mitochondria doesn't work and the calcium just builds up, and we call that arthritis, traumatically induced arthritis. Next slide, please. Anti-inflammatory. This is also in the category of taking ginseng and rosemary to reduce reductive oxygen damage and to try to regenerate your glial cell activation. And the glial cell is like the glue to the brain. And as you get older, the glue loosens up and then you don't get good transmission of electrical thoughts.
Okay.
Next slide. Yes, okay. Now we're going back to pathology of Alzheimer's. Lithium inhibits this GSK3. This is linked to hypersonic changes, the hallmarks of AD. So as you can see, lithium is a brain regulator in many respects. Okay, we can do the next slide, please. So, there's many stages of lithium depression from when I had this one farmer friend of mine, he says, my brother sent me a suicide note. And he says, what should I do with it? I says, pay very close attention to that. As a matter of fact, when he shows up at the farm tomorrow, you let me know because I'm going to go knock on the door and talk to his wife. And I did. I virtually walked into the house. I'm good enough friends. And I said, your husband wrote a suicide note. And she says, well, I did see that. And I says, you have to pay very close attention because when people are writing this stuff down, you don't understand how close they are to taking their own lives.
Wow.
So I invited him into my office to have a little talk about this because he's a farmer. And I said, I want you to listen to this phone call. And this guy called in and he says, I'm going to a funeral. And I says, oh my God, what happened? He says, well, when COVID hit, this guy that owned a restaurant put in a $5,000 order for supplies for his restaurant, got a ladder out, climbed up on the roof of the building, called 911 and said, come pick up the body. And he jumped off head foot.
Oh my gosh.
And my buddy that was lithium dependent, lithium depressed, he says, well, why would somebody order $5,000 before he did that? And I said, no, Nathan, why did he commit suicide? That's the whole point. I says, we do soil testing on your farm all the time. I says, but we're going to do a hair test, a hair tissue mineral analysis, because I suspect you don't have any lithium in your system whatsoever. And I says, what you're experiencing. He was going through a lot of stuff mentally. When his hair test came back, he virtually had no lithium being excreted out of his cerebral spinal fluid into his hair. And we put him on 10 milligrams of lithium a day. And that was, 6 years ago. And he's one of the most outstanding men I know. He just had a struggle and he didn't comprehend what was going on. Okay,
Wow.
We'll take the next slide, please. Really interesting. Human milk does not have uric acid, but you do get uric from root vegetables, beets and carrots. And as a matter of fact, beets is also very high in lithium. So if I'm going to do food-based lithium therapy, I usually incorporate a lot of red beets and red beet juice. Okay, next slide. Yeah, well, now we have an entire society that is self-medicated. Cocaine was the big thing. We don't hear as much about cocaine as we do meth. And the medical doctors are prescribing all these benzodiazepines and all these extremely brain-altering, highly addictive things. That's not doing anything any good in the long run. It's just keeping people strung out on meds. So people that don't understand they have low lithium do a lot of self-medicating. Now, tobacco is one that actually has lithium in it. When people smoke a cigarette, they do get lithium, and this is how some people self-medicate. Other people drink way too much. Other people turn to gummies, and they're in Michigan. I drove by the pot store yesterday morning quite early, and they were lined up at the front door waiting for it to open. I'm like going, oh my gosh,
Wow.
Here it is, 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and they're lining up at the front door of the pot store to get their fix. A little bit of lithium would go a long ways in society. Okay, next slide, please.
You might want the next one.
Yes, please. Now, anything you take, whether it's lithium, selenium, magnesium, curcumin, turmeric, resveratrol, all the natural health products we take, actually, the mode of action is to change the abundance and the quality and type of bacteria found in your gut. Because anything that's going to get into your bloodstream has got to be acted on by your gut bacteria. And you can hit the next screen, please. They've found that lithium shows benefits in shifting your microbiome. Next slide. So it increases what's called butyrate producing bacteria or short chain fatty acids. Well, just as that sounds, the whole body needs fat. Every piece of machinery needs to be greased and it's oils. And here's your fatty acids that you have to have for good brain function, good gut barrier function, so that you don't get leaky gut. And leaky gut and Roundup go so hand in hand, it's frightening. Okay, next slide, please. And then actually lithium will bring up the health of your mucin degrading bacteria called Akkermansia mucopenia. I should have probably put that one in and listened to it a few times. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right.
Well, nobody here will know if you're pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Changes you can also, by taking through the vagus nerve and affecting the brain, it'll actually alleviate colon inflammation and support the gut-brain axis. And our gut-brain axis is under horrible assault from all the pesticides and herbicides that used in the standard. And as much as I eat as much organic as I can, I'm not oblivious to the fact that Roundup has a 3-mile drift pattern. In other words, when they spray it on the field, it can drift up to 3 miles away from the unanticipated effects. If you have a garden in your backyard and somebody's spraying the stuff a couple miles away, it ends up in your food chain, which is not a good thing. Okay, and there's your gut-brain axis. It's all the bacteria in the gut. Your gut actually has more bacteria, funguses, molds, viruses in it than you do human cells. This is like your second brain. When you get a gut feeling, your brain says something and all the gut bacteria are responding. Is this something we're going to eat or is this something we should run from? Is it your fight or flight deal?
Yeah.
And if you have really messed up thought patterns because your lithium levels are very low, it's going to directly affect how the gut works. It's a chicken or the egg thing. What went first? Did your gut go south? They've linked this low lithium levels to autism and gut changes. Go ahead, the next slide, please.
Have you by chance looked at the Bible, how, different scriptures, especially I would say in the Old Testament, talk about body, like organs, like the kidneys and the stomach and the heart? Do you see in your practice that the way the Bible talks about those are the functions aligned, like the emotional seat and things like that?
Well, I'm sure biblically it's in there, and you would be a better authority to me, but the Chinese people who developed this acupuncture some 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, say if you have a kidney problem, you're going to cry. It controls water, that type of emotion. If your liver's messed up, you're going to have a lot of anger. If your spleen is messed up, you're going to have a lot of sorrow. So all of these organs collectively contribute to your wealth and health, your health and well-being. Absolutely. Probably the biggest one that's out in today's society is the liver being very toxic, making people very angry all the time. That's the one I see the most. Now, this is that question you had earlier. Prozac, it's the first major molecule that came out. This was touted as like the big breakthrough in mental health. I mean, it's just a fluoride pill. My gosh, the German army fluoridated the water real heavy to run all the lithium out of people so that they could be easily controlled. And now you have water systems that they add fluoride to. Okay, you can hit the next one because the other fluoride-based, okay, so if you've got a healthy, normal gut reaction, things are going good. I mean, you're thinking at all levels, where when it's not, your brain doesn't work, your inflammatory markers go up, you hurt all the time, your gut leaks, and you just get really bad altered behavior. Okay. I always like to pull this one up because the TV commercials, when fluoride in toothpaste come out, it says, our toothpaste contains fluoride. Fluoride kills bacteria. We kill the bacteria that causes tooth decay. It's like I'm putting an antibiotic in my mouth. Now, I look at the microbiome of the mouth as the first phase of digestion. Your body's got to have a certain microbiome in your mouth, and then it's fortified with saliva when you chew your food. I've read papers that people that smoke cigarettes, it changes the microbiome where two bacteria are very prevalent. And if they develop pancreas cancer, that same bacteria is now living in the pancreas, all because the microbiome of the mouth went south. So I have zero faith in fluoride-based toothpaste. And I say, do you have Teflon coated frying pans? They go, oh no, I got rid of that. And I says, well, do you use dental floss? And they go, well, of course I do. And I says, do you realize the FL in floss means fluoride? And then their eyeballs go, are you kidding me? And I says, no, they fluoridate the wax that goes on your floss, and then that gets stuck to your teeth, alters your microbiome until you swallow it all. So
That's so
we got to
wild.
take a real good look at what we're sticking in our mouths.
And
Okay,
in
next
fact, Dr. Ulrey, one of the questions that I was going to bring up later was on floss. Is getting unfluoridated floss an acceptable thing, or do you have other problems with
No, no,
floss? It's just the
no, I have
fluoride
no
that's the
problem with
problem.
floss. It's just,
Okay.
the fluoride's the problem.
Okay.
So this was fluoride's an antibiotic, of course. Now I grabbed this off of the City of Detroit Water Quality Report. So how do you like that? They regulate contaminant tables. They actually regulate the amount of contaminant that goes into you. So go to the next slide. They put it in there. Oh, well, it's a water additive which promotes teeth. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey. That stuff doesn't even go 2 microns deep into your teeth. This whole lie that's been perpetuated by the people that like to sell fluoride has been a myth. So water companies actually add
Doc, you cut
fluoride
out for me.
because of stupid reasons. Again, the people that make these decisions are not doctors. Let people be their own doctors when it comes to what minerals they want to put into the system.
No kidding. And Doc, we just had a hearing on this at our legislature last week. And the bill that was going to prohibit fluoride from being put into the water system had such strong resistance from the dentists, like the dental mafia came out against it apparently. And now they're going to make it so difficult for us to get this stuff out of our water, instead of just saying, you know what, if you want to fluoridate your water, you can do it on your own dime. I don't understand what drives these. Is it just, you think it's just like Rockefeller medicine that's taught these people that fluoride is good, and so they just believe it as biblical truth?
Well, it's a cash cow. It's a big time cash cow. Go get your teeth cleaned. I go to the dentist. I go, look, I am so allergic to fluoride. If it enters my mouth, you're going to dial 911. That's how serious I get with my dentist. I just go, I don't want nothing to do. Our local town during the COVID crisis of supply chain issues couldn't get fluoride. So I went to the village or the township, the city meetings, and I'm like, okay, now what's wrong with this picture here? You're going to spend $55,000 on a new fluoride additive machine. You're going to change where you're buying it. And the man that utilizes this stuff has to wear a hazmat suit. And I says, what is inherently normal about a man putting a hazmat suit on to add something to your drinking water? And I says, you people are not doctors. Quit medicating the masses. Well, I was going to save him $55,000. Now, the dentist did not show, but they all had their, the people that work for them, the hygienist. Oh, yes. And they just read from some script. It was all the same thing. Now, one dentist showed up to tell us how good it was to ruin your microbiome of your mouth, because that's a cash cow. I couldn't tell you how many children probably went through college because dad, buys and sells and utilizes fluoride in his clients.
Why do you think they want it in the water? It's one thing to put it on your toothpaste. You can go and buy it, but I just can't get over this, why they want it in the water thing. The dentist.
It takes the lithium. Well, the dentist, well, that's the mineral that they make a living out of.
I guess so.
And also when I've got to get the mercury out of my mouth. So you go in and you have all those dams put in so you're not swallowing all the mercury when they're grinding the hell out of your teeth. What are they sticking in? They're sticking in fluoride. Fluoride has so much energy that they can take an epoxy, they stick it into your mouth, and they put those goggles on, they turn it on for a few seconds, it goes so hard, then they can grind away. So for the rest of your life, you're now grinding fluoride into your food chain.
Wow.
And that's the devil in the paperwork.
No kidding.
Well, that screen we have on there is all kinds of big, but basically, this is what fluoride does to the body. It just causes havoc everywhere when it goes systemic. I mean, fluoride, drinking it is basically systemic poisoning in my eyes. It changes the microbiome of your gut. It gets rid of a lot of good bacteria. We got enough problems going on with the food chain and bad gut bacteria with all the herbicides and pesticides. And go ahead and hit the next slide, please. Okay, so the other ones that have fluoride incorporated right into them are Celexa, Lexpro, and Luvox. Okay, so that's just our take on the fluoride aspect in relation to lithium. They're trying to take lithium deficient people and make them better with fluoride based medicines. Yay. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we got a lot of brain power here. Okay, we can hit the next slide. Thank you. Lithium has several biological effects on the thyroid. In low doses, it'll help your thyroid. But if you've been classified as schizophrenic or bipolar or severe depression, and they put you on 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of a lithium salt, which is completely different than lithium orotate, it can really goof up your thyroid. It can change a lot of parameters in your thyroid. Oops, hang on. That one said spam risk. I'm sure I want to talk to that person.
They heard you were talking about fluoride.
Yeah, no, it just makes you, with the fluoride, when it goofs up your thyroid, it makes you fat, lazy, and stupid. You gain weight, you have no energy, your brain shuts down, your hair falls out, and you get cold. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So, increasing iodine levels, understanding the adverse effects. This is for the people that, if you're going to try to get off of the liver destroying, gut destroying, thyroid destroying lithium pills that they prescribe to you, the psychiatric doctors, you've got to be under some good supervision. You just can't throw everything out the window one day and say, well, now I'm going to do this, because you can get into more problems than you anticipate. Because way too much lithium can affect your thyroid. Probably 80% of the American population is iodine deficient. 2 out of 3 people walking the earth are selenium deficient. And those are the 2 minerals that make your thyroid work. So if you're now throwing lithium into this conjuncture, people's eyes are bugging out, their thyroids are bugging out. They don't know what to do because the type of doctoring they're doing is a dead-end street. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a major problem with people, and we showed how lithium can bring back certain bacteria, and there's a bacteria in your belly that makes PARK, P-A-R-K, and that chemical is a neurotransmitter that goes from your gut to your brain, and if your brain isn't receiving enough of this from your gut, you get what's known as Parkinson's. Now, sadly, by the time you realize you've destroyed so many brain cells that it may not be possible to stop it. So what you're trying to do is slow down or diminish or just stop any further damage. Go ahead. Next slide, please. Neuroprotection and disease modification of Parkinson's. Next slide. It helps protect against neuron loss, the dopaminic producing cells and the substantia nigra. Okay. The technical stuff. Next slide. And it stops this enzyme from being made, which is very bad. Okay, the next slide.
Sorry.
Okay, so back up. Yeah. So we're trying to reduce inflammation in every direction we see. You're trying to make everything work the way it's supposed to. Brains love sodium. And of course, we've abused sodium in society because the Morton table salt up until about 8 years ago, for 50 or 60 years, it was 50% aluminum. So when people were salting their food and getting way too much aluminum, the kidneys were getting unhappy because it's not able to excrete it. The blood pressure goes up, and then they go, oh, salt's doing that. No, we need salt. We need Himalayan salt. We need Redmond salt. We do need salts to be put on our food to taste, but not cooked with. The brain also loves potassium, and our society of fast foods is everybody's liver is working triple time trying to get something out of the slush they put down in their mouth in fast food societies. The calcium, magnesium is in the brain. We've got to have that. You've got to have, and you got to have lithium. Okay, the next slide, please. So just take a look at your bottle. Make sure it says lithium orotate, and then trust the source you got. I think there's only one more slide. Thank you very much. I'm at Hillman Health Food Store. If you wish to contact me, there's a number on the screen. 7, and my staff will assist you in any way they can. If you need to get a hold of me, they'll get me some messages. So Danielle, let's clean up on these questions that you had.
Yeah, a couple. One question I have is, since lithium is so low in the population, have you considered putting it in your mineral complex?
No, I'd like to see a hair test. I'd like to see some testing indicating, because, every mineral has a deficient, and an optimal state. And as much as I'm seeing so many people low, there are areas of the country that there is lithium in the water, and you start giving them too much lithium, and it starts goofing up. We don't want that. It's rare that I see high lithium levels, but if I do, it's because people are being treated with the lithium salts that we see really high lithium levels. But those really high artificially induced lithium levels from the pharmaceutical aspect, they all have to have their livers checked all the time for liver damage, because that the lithium salts at 500 to 1,000 milligrams runs all the potassium out of the body, and people start running around with all kinds of heart arrhythmias and a lot of different things because it's affecting the liver and potassium so much.
Okay. A question back to the histamine part of lithium. So, should people be reaching for an additional capsule of lithium orotate if they're experiencing like an allergy attack instead of reaching for antihistamines?
Well, I'm not going to say that it's going to give you the instant relief by putting some fluoride. If you take a look at the medicines that are out there for sinus relief, they're all fluoride based. If you just look at the label and you look at the name, and if it has two letters FL in it, then yeah, you might get a lot of relief, but you're just loading your brain up with fluoride. Now, fluoride has a natural attachment to lithium. So the more fluoride you use, the more fluoride you're going to lose out of your system. You need to stick with more holistic approaches to the sinuses, getting your stomach working better, getting your hydrochloric acid levels up. Now, the COVID virus has been making its rounds for the past 6-7 years now. The first thing that does to your nose is it turns it into a fungal supply, so that when it goes fungal and your sinuses inflame, it allows the COVID virus to get across into your brain, where its residence is the middle layer of the meninges, where it also has direct access to the brain. So if you have a sinus infection and you're feeling run down, if you can't smell or taste, you can say it's allergies, but it sounds like you have COVID if you're not smelling and tasting, because that's what happens with the COVID virus when it gets into your brain. The first thing people say is, I can't smell and taste anymore. And it gives them chronic brain inflammation. But that's a whole nother topic of discovery
Yeah.
for another show.
Yeah, definitely. So, any recommendations for something with like an acute sinus infection or allergic reaction?
Yeah, I certainly would be using a lot of tea tree oil. I would be sucking on peppermint, trying to get my stomach to work better. You might want to use comfrey tea, because you're inhaling all this stuff and it can cause lung inflammation. I just don't think by altering one of the basic amino acids in the body that you need to be taking antihistamines, because it is histamine that we're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Let me see. Okay, you mentioned Morton salt 8 years ago still had aluminum in it, which is shocking. I mean, absolutely stunning. Is it any better now? I mean, maybe they took the aluminum out, but should we be eating it now? Is it got other
Um,
garbage in it that's bad for us?
it's not like it's got garbage. They bake it. They basically ruin the qualities of salt. And I've been in the Redmond salt mines, and I've been 500 feet below the surface, and the walls aren't pure white like a Morton table salt is. It's got all kinds of colors because of all the trace minerals in it. You need to have those colors in your salt, because that means you're getting a lot of minerals. Basically, Morton table salt had aluminum in it. My ex-wife back in the 80s, her uncle actually owned the company that made the packages for Morton table salt. So they weaned it out of the everyday table salt, and it was still in kosher salt that's used. Now they've removed it from the kosher salt. But if you go to a fast food restaurant and they give you that little tiny package of salt that's got the crinkles in it, well, that's 50% aluminum.
Oh my
That's why that
gosh.
stuff doesn't cake inside a paper container. Yeah, you're still getting a lot of aluminum in salt in the fast food restaurants, because the aluminum is added to keep the stuff so it flows, whether it's 100 degrees and raining or it's 50 below and you can't feel your toes, are so cold, and the stuff will shake out of a container okay.
Wow. And if you experience a lot of inflammation after eating this kind of salt, what would be the driver of that?
Changes in your gut bacteria.
Mm.
I mean, if you take a look at the people that collect McDonald's hamburgers and they have them on the shelves for 12 years and nothing changes, the reason that it's there is because it's so saturated with sodium that nothing is growing on it. That's what they used to do to foods. They would highly salt the foods down to keep stuff from growing on it. And they would smoke it and they would salt it. That was way back in food preservation.
Okay, the next question that I got here may have come in from a question from the audience about iodine levels and how to test for iodine levels.
Yeah, again, all minerals have a toxic deficiency in an optimal state. So what you're looking at, it's called iodine saturation. Now, there's a company, it's either in Colorado or Utah, the Hanaka, Hannaka Labs. They'll give you a slug of iodine to drink, and then you collect your voids for 24 hours and ship it off. And with a few extra dollars, they'll tell you if you're saturated with fluoride, chloride, or bromide. So you're looking for iodine saturation. 80% of the American population is iodine deficient. So taking some is not a bad thing. It's just how much are you taking and how long you're going to take it for. Because too much iodine can have its effects too, which is much less, in society. It's hardly even seen in areas where there's no iodine because people aren't getting enough to speak of. But yeah, there is three states, and you want to be optimal. So you're looking for iodine saturation.
Okay. Excellent. And then this last question, I was watching a podcast where this doctor was talking about using the ketogenic diet to clear out people's brains from all kind of junk that had backed up in there from poor diets over time. What do you think about that?
Well, when you're shifting the primary source of energies to fats and proteins by completely eliminating sugars, basically you're fasting from sugars and it allows your body to clean out.
Okay.
I mean, that's what ketogenic means. And it's actually used, and some people will take it to heart. They'll say, well, if sugar is feeding my cancer cells, why am I eating candy? Because it's a comfort food? Why do I do this? But people will go on a ketogenic diet just to starve cancer cells out, trying to get them into what's called apoptosis. In other words, get them to commit suicide because they're not wanted. So the ketogenic diet plus everybody, just went on that big meat diet to stop putting lectins in their body. And I did that for like 4 months, lost 24 pounds, but then I got a bloody nose. And I says, when I get a bloody nose, I got to get chlorophyll back into me.
Yeah.
So I did do that, but I abandoned it for the most part. Because I think you have to have all the bioflavonoids from your plants and your fruits and stuff that, you have quercetin, you have resveratrol, you have lutein. There's just so many flavonoids that come in plants and stuff that you've got to have a well-balanced microbiome so that every cell in your body will then have nutrition.
Okay. Excellent. So it's not a panacea necessarily, but it'll certainly help clear things, help the processes along, clearing things out.
Well, I mean, when you take a look at suicide, anybody that's thought about it, talked about it, or did it, you find out they haven't got no lithium in their brain. And they might be treating themselves, through other means, some psychiatrists or psychologists, but this lithium connection is overlooked by the vast majority of doctors.
Wow, that's incredible. What got you down this path, by the way, of looking at lithium right now?
Well, I try to know something about every mineral associated with human health, the good, bad, or indifferent. And there's a lot of minerals. I mean, when God made all the stars produced all the minerals ended up on Earth, and we have to have the right amount of minerals to keep God's creation of DNA functioning. We've got a regenerative cycle. If we can keep the telomeres working really good, and then we can constantly be calling on this self-replicating code to regenerate our body and keep us physically fit and mentally healthy. I mean, sick people have a hard time communicating with God. They don't know how to communicate with the Son or the Holy Spirit. And to me, if your gut is really messed up, you're not going to have a good time with the Holy Spirit. If your iodine levels are all messed up, you're not going to have a good time talking to the Son. If your selenium and boron levels are messed up, you have a hard time communicating with the Father. Just the way society is right now, with the way the food chains evolved and developed. And it's a lack of education. They're not teaching. You go to shop class, they taught us what a hammer was. They'd say maybe you be a welder. I don't even know if they have homemaking classes in high school anymore where people were actually taught how to melt butter and mix up flours and make banana bread or something.
Right.
Where are people getting this education? You got almost every household's a 2-person working to just make enough money to have a house and a car, let alone who's doing the cooking.
Yeah, you're so right, Doc. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It is always fascinating talking to you, and I always get so much out of it. Do you have anything else you want to share before we let you go?
If it's not organic, panic.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
absolutely.
me, Danielle. Okay.
No, you're most welcome. And just a point for the viewers, if you have any questions that you are interested in hearing from Dr. Ulrey on, send in questions, either email me or put a comment in the chat or on social media, and I'll be looking out for those, and we'll try and get them addressed next time he comes on.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
Thank you, Doc.
Tigerland Properties, these are licensed professional realtors in Louisiana, commercial, residential, investments, whatever you choose to do. These people, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you want to invest, these people are the best in the business. They really are. Tigerland Properties, mainly they work in the Boot area of Louisiana, down in South Louisiana, but truly you could not be in better hands if you're buying or selling commercial, residential, or investing than Tigerland Properties. I encourage you to call them 225-320-3004. You'll want to make sure you're in good hands with commercial, residential, real estate, or investment. And they are the best. Cayo Fuego, it's just unbelievable. Whether it's the flame-grilled carne asada or a signature mango margarita. I had one of those too. They're serving up a literal feast of freedom at Cayo Fuego. It's just extraordinary. I love the owners, Andres and Jose. They run such a great restaurant. The service is extraordinary. The atmosphere is great. So if you're in Pineville in the Alexandria area or passing through, or if you live there, go to Cayo Fuego and tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Thanks for joining me today on For the Love of Freedom. It is an honor and a true privilege to get to spend some time with you. If you're looking for other episodes of this show, you can find them on all of the State of Freedom platforms. And a reminder that this show is live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central. God bless.